Y'all remember the short-lived 80s Bowie persona in the Blue Jean music video, Screamin' Lord Byron? This is slutty Lord Byron, like, canonical. Anyway, coming back at you with another little section of Interview with a Vampire. This is a short one today, which is cool because, like, I'm on vacation right now, so I'm just trying to vibe. Like, I don't even have the energy to button myself. Damn, this is one of the, I got like a Torrid haul coming up eventually. This is one of the new shirts I got. It is so cool, but man, is the construction whack for what Torrid is charging. Like, unbuttoning this, like, can you see that? Like, it's already fraying. Like, I'm gonna have to mend this. I've already had to mend one of the fucking things I got from them. What is this, 1875? Anyway, vamos. So we start off here on page 103 with The Vampire Stopped. So again, in the last part, Claudia learned the secret of her terrible birth. Again, I got a whole playlist of these, go through them. Like, I don't know why you would come in on like part 6 or 7 or whatever this is without like checking, you know what I'm saying? But like, if you doing that, go back, rewatch them, get caught up. I'm not doing a full recap. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm Isadora, haunt, laugh, love, like, comment, subscribe. The Vampire Stopped. And then, the boy comes in with, but why did you tell her? And in my comments, I put very shady. Because that is, so he's like, oh, like, why couldn't you have just kept lying to her forever? Again, this might just be kind of like a journalism related type thing. Again, like, he's a journalist, bro gotta know all the fucking tea all the time. This light, so inconsistent. Is this better? And Louis responds with, how could I not tell her? You know, she had to know it. She had to weigh one thing against the other. It was not as if Lestat had taken her full from life as he had taken me. I had stricken her. So, you know, then the boy's like, okay, so she found out that, like, y'all both took part in her death/birth/rebirth. What did she do? Like, did you lose her? Did she leave y'all for being, like, lion-ass hoes? And Louis was like, where would she have gone? She was, like, a little child. Or appeared to be one, but we actually learn how old Claudia is, like, currently, because we've kind of glazed over a lot of things so far. Louis has just been like, we spent decades together in, like, the happy bliss of a normal family that, like, just committed murder together sometimes. Chill, brother. Yeah, so basically the boy's like, did she leave you? What happened? And, like, Louis was like, of course not. Where would she have gone in the body of a child? Something in her was as akin to me as anything in her could have been. That thing in Lestat was the same. We could not bear to live alone. We needed our little company. A wilderness of mortals surrounded us, groping, blind, preoccupied, and the brides and bridegrooms of death. Now, my notes here, this is probably the first accurate read I've ever heard Louis make on Lestat, which is very interesting because Louis, throughout this book, he kind of positions himself as, like, a deep intellectual with, like, lofty intellectual goals, who has, like, deep perceptions, and despite, like, claiming that he has achieved, like, complete vampiric detachment every 9 seconds, he's very locked in to, like, mortals, very locked into specifically his own suffering, and no one else's, really. But, yeah, so he's like, all of this thing that was in us was all the same, and, like, we could not bear to be alone now. Here, this line of describing, like, the human world as, like, a wilderness of mortals is just such, like, beautiful and evocative imagery. Just, it makes me think of, like, being alone in the woods, and, like, every, like, tree is a human being, and just describing them as, like, the brides and bridegrooms of death. Like, one, this is a very evocative and beautiful way to describe the pure codependent misery of this family. Two, just, like, beautiful imagery. Don't get me wrong, like, within Anne's writing, I do have some critiques of Anne Rice, but at least in Interview with the Vampire, those critiques do not include, like, her beautiful and, like, evocative and dark prose, and, like, the way she just, like, creates images. It's like a fucking painter. It's, like, delicious. It's like an opium den of a novel. It's, fuck, I just want to, like, I don't know, I just want to, like, curl up in this novel and, like, die. Like, Anyway, so Claudia kind of, like, she takes like her long time thinking through the situation. And then she finally says, I don't despise you. And in big letters, I just have doubt. She hate yo ass. Like, be fucking real. Anyway, then we get into another one of these like weird PDF-y vibes, which are a very present part of this fucking novel that I deeply do not like. And while they're having this conversation, Claudia is playing with like lavender flowers, which is just like beautiful gothic like imagery. But so basically she comes towards Louis covered with the scent of flowers and the petals in her hand. Is this the aroma of mortal child? She whispered. Louis, lover, ew. Like, something I think I'm really starting to notice in these books is that, like, whenever Claudia wants something from Louis, she's like, Louis, my lover, my, like... So, like, anytime she, like, wants something from him, she kind of, like, evokes this, like, romantic imagery to, like, manipulate him, essentially. But, like, the rest of the time, she doesn't really seem to want anything to do with him. So, like, I'm thinking because here, she's, like, Louis lovering him again. Like, this bitch wants something from him. And, like, Louis, like, I think he's really in love with, like, the idea of Claudia as, like, a family member. And because of that, he really can't see like when she's playing him. And it's very interesting because like he kind of sees Lestat as like this ultimate threat. So like no matter what Lestat does, like according to Louis, Lestat always has the worst intentions and like is this huge fucking bastard. But whatever Claudia does, it's like just part of her like sweet nature or whatever in his mind. Like I think because she's being nice to him, she wants something from him, and we're about to find out what that is. But I'm also like, is the scent of like mortal children lavender flowers? Doubtful. It really shows like children smell like they've been picking their own nose and butthole. Like she doesn't have a lot of experience in the mortal world, which is not her fucking fault. Is it, Louis de Pointulac? Anyway, she finishes off this paragraph like, you gave me your immortal kiss, she said, though not to me, but to herself. You loved me with your vampire nature. And he says, I love you now with my human nature, if I ever had it. Again, like, we kind of see Louis as a man and Louis as a vampire pretty much being the same person, because, like, I don't think, at least in this book, in purely the case of Louis, it doesn't seem like vampirism really changes like your soul. If you believe a soul exists, it doesn't really change like your personality, your mindset that deeply. Like as a man, he was like kind of deeply like disconnected, very focused on himself and his own internal petty problems, and kind of divorced from everything around him. And as a vampire, he's the same. So like I feel like he has this idea that he's gone through this like grand like soul deep transformation, and it doesn't really seem that way, if you know what I'm saying. Then very interesting, they continuing a conversation. Claudia says to Louis, yes, and that's your flaw, and why your face was miserable when I said as humans say, I hate you, and why you look at me as you do now, human nature. I have no human nature. Very interesting. And like Louis, of course, like he rejects that, because even when he was a man, he had no appreciation of like humanity, of like divine experiences, of like connections with other people. And as a vampire, he doesn't really either. Like now, because he's a vampire, he hates that and holds like humanity very highly, or like what his conception of what the human nature is. And now here, I think one thing I really appreciate here is like Anne Rice will kind of like take you through this like disorienting experience of how like timelessness feels by like blending decades upon decades upon decades together, and then all of a sudden she'll like snap you back into like a more human reality with like our concepts of time. So for like a while we've kind of been waiting in this like vague like decades and decades and decades pass, but what does that mean? And then Claudia kind of brings us back into like a linear presence, and it feels a little bit fucking like shocking, you know? And she says and now the sleep of 65 years has ended. So like she's 65 years old. So I hope I'm kind of explaining what I mean with kind of like the expansion and contraction of time through the narrative. Anne Rice really, like, it's a very interesting, like, narrative experience, and I think Anne Rice does that really, really well. And like, when you're brought back into like the human conception of time, it's kind of like like whiplash, buddy. So then we kind of like get into Claudia, you know, she's like playing with the flowers, and she's kind of like opining more on their like general situation. And she says, you know, Lestat made me then to be your companion. No chains could have held you in your loneliness, and he could give you nothing. He gives me nothing. I used to think him charming. I liked the way he walked, the way he tapped the flagstones with his walking stick and swung me in his arms, and the abandon with which he killed, which was as I felt. But I no longer find him charming, and you never have. And we've been his puppets, you and I, you remaining to take care of him, and I your saving companion. Now it's time to end it, Louis. Now's time to leave him. And in my notes, I just say like, okay, Claudia. Like, honestly, like, it's very interesting from reading this book alone, at least so far, that so many people are deeply invested in shipping Louis and Lestat, because, like, these people, or these dudes hate each other, bro. Like, straight up fucking hate each other. Like, worst marriage. Like, I've seen people in, like, 50-year marriages who hate each other, who have more regard for each other than they have. Like, anyway, then we get into another thing where I think Anne Rice, something she does really deftly throughout these books, is to express a very specifically human experience, like with a neat little bow in like an incredible image. Louis says, you know, I hadn't thought of it, dreamed of it in so long, I'd grown accustomed to him, as if he were a condition of life itself. And I feel like that's how so many like people in toxic marriages kind of relate to each other and interact with each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that's just like so universal, so common, such an incredible way of describing kind of like how people in these like miserable marriages and like long-term relationships feel. And like in just one sentence, Anne Rice has encapsulated so much in like an incredible singular image. So like, love to see that. So then, you know, Louis pretty much like, they hear him coming. So as they're talking about leaving him and how much they hate Lestat and how they want to get rid of him, Lestat's on his way home. They hear his little like heeled boots clicking up the fucking stairs, okay? And like Louis is like, but he'll never let us go. It's hopeless. Because you know how Louis is. Everything's fucking hopeless. Claudia's just smiling, and she, you know, and she said, still smiling, oh, really? So that's what I'm saying. So even in this short little passage here, so we see Claudia's like, oh, like, Louis, my lover, like, we don't need Lestat. So she like, again, like, I think we all know what kind of happens. Like, this book's like, I think over twice as old as me. So like, we all know what's gonna happen. But again, like, Claudia's laying it on thick with like the romantic illusions, specifically only when she desires something from Louis. And what she desires is to use Louis to leave Lestat. So usually this is a really, really short little section, but I'm doing it section by section for continuity's sake. Anyway, that was this little chunk of the book. I'm looking forward to, I'm on like holiday break right now, so I'm hoping to get like a good chunk of filming done. I want to keep these coming, and I want to do more and more like in the new year. I love Interview with a Vampire. I love the Vampire Chronicles. I'm having the time of my life. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, haunt, laugh, love, baby girl. And I'll catch y'all in the next one. Bye.